Motion by Carol, second by Anita. Are there any questions? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion carries with Len out of the room. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Have a good day. Okay, next up we have Rich Johnson. His information starts on page 44 in the packet.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the council. First time I've been in here in a while, so.
I hate to tell you, Rich, but it's afternoon.
It is. It is, yeah. I got to put on my reading glasses, I guess. But today I want to introduce some of our friends from the city of Polson and the Polson Community Development, or something like that. But we're going to bring forward, after they introduce themselves, a kind of a partnership with providing some GIS help for the city of Polson. So I'm going to let Ed go ahead and start. So just press stop.
Thank you, members of the council. It's great to be back with you again today, and thanks so much for having us. And we're really excited, as Rich said, about the ability to create this partnership. Rich's department's going to be doing all of primary GIS services for the city of Polson. And so we haven't had a GIS department in 7 years. We're restarting this effort, and it's something we're really looking forward to, especially working with his folks. So I'll just introduce a couple people that are with me. Matt Ellerman is our code compliance officer for the city of Polson, and he also fills in a bunch of other planning duties. And then Jessica Trosper. Jessica just joined us about 2 weeks ago. She hasn't left yet, so that's good news. And she is our permit tech, so she does all of our intake and some of our basic permit review processing. So they'll both be part of utilizing the GIS system as well. So again, thank you, and thank you for having us here today.
So what I would ask, Madam Chair, I'll just give a brief overview of the contractor agreement that Contracts and Grants directed us to utilize with the city of Polson, as well as the legal department has looked at this. What it is just where we will provide as needed, not to exceed amount to be determined. I believe that amount was around $35,000, not to exceed $20,000. And we're just billing at our rate of what our GIS analysts and Martin Zobel get for their salary and fringe benefits. And that's just not to exceed amount. It doesn't mean that we'll do that or we'll have time to do that, but we felt it was pretty important. And then the city's been talking to us for months about this, and we felt we could be a help and kind of help them develop their own GIS program over time. Yeah, what they have is just not what we have at this time. So I guess I would ask the tribal council, after they have questions, just to consider approving this contract.
Okay, are there any questions from council? Did you want to add anything, Ed?
No, not really. I mean, Rich covered it. We're just very excited about the opportunity to partner like this. And we're looking forward to working with his folks. We've already had a lot of those preliminary discussions, and it's just important in this time and age for local government to be able to access their data in a spatial manner. And so we're just looking forward to having this getting started. So thank you all very much.
Well, I think it's an exciting partnership, and I know we have a very good GIS program, so I'm very, very proud of Martin and crew. Or is he Department of One?
Well, Peter Gillard's still with us. And Martin Zobel, as well as Mickey Fisher. And we're hiring another individual for the water compact, hopefully soon. So yeah, we are top notch in Indian country, in my opinion.
Charmel?
Yeah, I think it's great to be able to develop these kind of partnerships, and I'm glad that we have the expertise that will assist you. Will information or data be shared? Is there, what kind of, partnership as far as data would be developed, I guess, or is there a separation of that here?
So that's a very good question. So your staff will be assisting us, as Rich said earlier, in sort of redeveloping our GIS system. So we are ramping up from a hardware, software standpoint. They will be assisting us in rebuilding the data layers as it is. But one of the goals of this program is obviously to make that interoperability between the organizations easier. And, again, as you said, sort of be able to share our data in a more fluid way.
And the kind of data we're talking about, Councilwoman Gillen, is roads, city blocks, things like that, utilities, rights of way, where tribal land is located, which they already can find out. That's pretty easy, but just because the valley's growing, and I know the city of Polson is looking at another way to go through the city of Polson, especially in the summer. So I think that's a long-term view of the whole thing. But yeah, so it won't be any type of data that we would not normally share.
Okay, any other questions from council? Martin?
Will the county be involved in this at all? I felt we had a pretty productive meeting. We've been having really productive meetings with the county and their roads department and everything. And I know, we are in the spirit of collaboration. I think that, at least inviting them to the table would be good just to do that. So thank you.
It's a very good question, and I would just take a shot at that real quick. In that this particular partnership, this service agreement, if you will, doesn't necessarily involve Lake County at that respect. But like you all, we've also tried to be in a process of building a stronger relationship with Lake County. And so where there are opportunities for that to occur, and as Councilmember Gillen said, share some data or practices or those types of things, we would certainly be willing to do that. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, motion by Charmel, second by Anita to approve the agreement with the city of Polson for GIS services. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? I'm sorry, Bing, I didn't get your vote. Motion carries with being out of the room. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Here.
Okay, next up, we have Ruth Swaney with the budget mod. Her info starts on page 50 in the packet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're asking your approval of modification 2 to the fiscal year 2022 total budget allocations. And this is to make the necessary increases in general fund, contracts and grants for a total of $6,102,480. And the revised total now at $154,217,346.
Motion to approve modification number 2.
Okay, motion by Carol, second by Martin. Any questions? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks much.
Okay, next up, we have Rick Anius with the resolution and policy approval.
Good afternoon, Council, Madam Chair. The work on this resolution and policy update was done primarily by Lisa Shorts, the Director of Administration. So I'll turn it over to her. As a reminder, this has been discussed, I think it was now 2 weeks ago. We didn't have a chance to bring it back, so we're here for approval.
To see you again. I'm bringing forward today a resolution to modify the current COVID leave policy that we have right now in place. Basically, we're having a few staff that are having issues with running out of leave, and so we're trying to help fit the needs of the staff while also making sure that we're aware of the productivity needs of the tribes itself. With this policy, we're proposing to have, instead of 80 hours of COVID leave overall, that it would be 80 hours of COVID leave per calendar year. We're also asking to have each employee be allowed to apply for no more than 40 hours of COVID leave share. And this would also allow us to set up a COVID leave pool, which an individual could apply to a designated person or persons or to the pool itself. And that would be COVID leave that they have available in their balance. This would not be PTO. And then we just want to make sure that no one would exceed that 40-hour aggregate. And then we've we propose a memo that would be sent out to help clarify how this would be applied, and then also created COVID leave donation forms.
Anita?
So just to kind of clear it in my mind, we've had several departments who's been off and on closed down. And a couple times of being quarantined and having to go get tested and then get the testing back and then get a form stating that they're negative or whatever. You don't think that they'll run over that 40 hours?
It's possible. Basically, COVID's here, and so we need to find a way to work with departments and find a way to work with staff to address those needs. Hopefully there would be the option for people to work at home. That's the first priority, is to make sure that if they're able to work from home, that they be allowed to work from home. We could also offer adjusted leave schedules for people so that it would help accommodate some of those family needs instead of requiring people just to be using COVID leave. So what we're trying to do is encourage departments to work with their programs to find a successful solution besides leave itself.
There's a question about who is eligible for this?
Under the current policy, only staff that are eligible to receive benefits under ordinance 69D are eligible. This would make it open to all employees under CSKT.
Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that in the chat. I was reading the memo and I just wanted to make sure that that was really clearly stated in the memo. So I don't know if you can take another look at it, but so you're saying that not only ordinance 69D employees, but also contracted personnel, whether their contracts specify that they're eligible for benefits or not? You're
Yes,
saying
under
all
number
employees.
5 in the
Okay.
memo, we have all employees, including those previously exempted due to ordinance 69D are authorized to utilize COVID leave, and they may apply for leave sharing when eligible.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if that's really crystal clear to everybody, but, thank you. And then I was also curious about, whether or not everybody would understand that this is, current and forward-looking, or whether that's intended. If there's I don't know if there have been requests for retro application of this.
No, there haven't.
Okay, thank
How we plan to address it is you would have your 80 hours for this calendar year. It would end, it would be zeroed out, and you would start over with a brand new 80 hours at the beginning of the new calendar year.
Carol?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Yeah, the issue that I've been bringing forward of an individual, it doesn't cover her, right?
The current policy does not. Under the new policy, it would.
Okay, and so I'm just curious why there can't be too many of them that were in that situation, but that ended up having to stay home, and I'm not sure, I can't remember if she had COVID or not, but I still think that individual should be covered, or anybody else in that situation, due to the fact that it showed up on her paycheck and she thought she had it and then didn't get paid. I disagree with not paying her for that. And maybe I'm the only one, but I just feel like that she should have been included because it showed up on her pay stub. And sometimes we as a tribe, we need to eat some things, because maybe we'll learn next time that we don't allow that kind of thing to happen. And I know mistakes happen. I'm not trying to be critical, but I just think in this situation, she wants to reserve the right then to come into council and plead her position on it.
And she has the right.
But she hasn't got her letter yet that I know of yet, right? Has the letter went
It
out
should have
to
went
her?
out this week. The
Oh,
day that
okay.
I sent it to you, it was supposed to be mailed, so
Okay.
she should have gotten
And
it.
I don't know if she got it, but that's what she told me. She goes, if it's contrary to what I'm thinking it should happen, she goes, I'm gonna come into council. And I said, well, that's your right to come in if you feel you need to, so.
And we need to also make sure that staff understand that a personal action form needs to be submitted with a copy of the proper documentation in order for it to be a consideration. We don't want staff calling and saying, I'm on COVID leave, and they think they're on COVID leave when they're actually not, because the paperwork's not in
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, I don't know
authorizing
any more details. It sounds like you have a little more information than I do. And of course, there's always two sides to the story. So I'm not
Right.
trying to argue it. I'm just, trying to let her know that she does have, room to talk to the council if she feels she needs to.
that. Right.
Lynn?
Thank you. Yeah, I was reading that situation, and in the past, I've always advocated when we started addressing these types of situations that we make sure that none of our employees are going leave without pay, and that we need to work with them all on an individual basis. But I hope we can resolve that. But anyway, on another matter, so as I understand it, every employee will be allocated 80 hours per calendar year, correct? Is that
As
what I
long as
understood?
this is in effect and as long as you approve it, yes.
And so, and I'm just thinking out loud here. So we have an employee, if we will have an employee gets infected, is quarantined for 10 days or longer. We may find ourselves in a situation where these people may not want to give up their 80 hours. You know, and if we find ourselves in that situation, is there discretionary clauses in there where we can make sure that these employees that are not able to collect from donations to make sure that they are continued to made whole?
There hasn't been a clause in this case, no.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Len, the thing and we didn't bring it today, but last time, if you remember, we presented the numbers, the utilization numbers related to this COVID leave. And it was less than 5% of our employees were in the situation where they've used all of their COVID leave. So if we have a similar experience going forward, that would put us in the position where the council itself could probably donate a sufficient amount of COVID leave to cover a majority of those circumstances. So I don't know that we need to necessarily worry about the generosity. It's something that we hope for, but if the experience is the same, it would not take very many generous employees to overcome the hurdle.
75% of the employees have used 0 of their COVID leave hours.
Okay, any other discussion? Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you had an employee that say they have their 80 hours and they donated to the full 60 hours and then they get sick, would they only be able to take their 20 hours and plus another 40 if they participated in the pool, and in other words, only have 60 hours?
Yes, you're donating your eligible hours. And so that would reduce their hours that they would make available for themselves.
I have 80 hours on there and I don't spend it. Can I get paid for it? Jokes.
According to Rick's body language. Martin?
Yeah, thank you guys for bringing this, and you know, we as council all have 80 on our pay stubs that, you know, we don't take leave, and we probably wouldn't need it for if one of us got COVID or whatever. So I've already told Rick that my 80 will go into that pool. You know, we can just do that as, you know, it's just something that we have as a perk as council. And so, you know, right there, that's, you know, 80 times 10, that's a good chunk of hours. So thank you.
We don't even acquire leave, you know, so, but we're still being allocated the 80 hours.
Yes.
Okay, so we can use that to donate them.
Go ahead,
She
Carol.
had it on her pay stub. Why doesn't she get to use it?
When the COVID leave was originally posted, it was with the understanding that everyone would be eligible. It was later determined that that was posted in error, And so it was addressed the same way that we would address PTO errors, and they were adjusting those out at the time. It just hadn't caught hers yet. So it would be similar to a PTO error if someone had miscoded something as far as accrual or use, we would deal with it in the same manner.
And we discussed this with council earlier this spring to clarify that it was only 69D eligible employees. The language in the resolution specifically referenced that benefits section.
Discussion? Not, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution and the letter regarding the COVID leave.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that there is a place that proper documentation is clearly available and understood for this. I know I've heard that just in general, like returning to work, documentation has been questioned at the department employee level and things like that. So I just want to make sure that our communication is really solid. Thank you. And thanks for the work on it.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? I'm sorry, Bing, I didn't get your vote.
I'm having a problem, but yeah, I'm for it.
Okay, motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The second was Charmel Abbey. While we're waiting for the elders to log on, we had a couple. No. Charmel?
I'd just like to say that I want to take mine off the agenda for today. I'd like to do a little more research, but I'll maybe make a request for another upcoming agenda. Thank you.
No, why can't I hear it? I better go to camp. Councilmen are there. Where's the elders? Hey, Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Bing.
I was for that one issue that you said I was out of the room, but you just couldn't hear me.
Oh, okay. Did you get that, Abby?
Yes, I got it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Can you all hear us out there in Zoom land?
Yes.
Just a thumbs up.
Oh, nah.
Zoom.
Okay. Okay, Atwen, take it away.
All right, Lim Special, my fellow tribes people. Thank you again for allowing us to visit, to voice our concerns, or not necessarily concerns, but to keep mostly, I guess, in touch with what's going on around reservation land and the rest of the world. It's hard to know what's going on, to communicate when you're kind of locked into either to your office or to your homes and can't go anywhere, afraid to do anything. COVID is just something that really has changed the lives of many people. And the elders, especially, who we are social people. We like to walk, talk, and to visit, and to share things face to face. Not, the best we can do is Zoom, but we can still see each other, but it's still not the same as, we all know it's not the same as face to face. Looking at pictures and looking at, you get tired of TV every once in a while. So. But anyway, I just basically we wanted some updates from, if possible, from the council and what's been happening, so that we can catch up, get back up to speed on the many things that are happening, and things that we read about, especially one of the main things, I think, was some of the newer things that are happening is what's happening with the water rights and the bison range and some of the different things. And after we get a little bit of updates from the council, I think the elders will then go ahead and talk about other things, other concerns that they might have. So we can go with that. So if anybody can start, either whoever wants to get out and get done first, I guess. We can start with either water rights or bison range or anybody.
Okay. Well, I guess we're in the phase of setting up our water rights office and registering our water rights. So I'll just turn it over to Rhonda at this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope everyone knows that the compact was approved by the Secretary of Interior in September, so it is effective. We have a couple of pieces yet that we're trying to get in place. One of those is the compact agreement, MOU, and the money transfer to the tribe so that we can begin all the construction, all the tasks that are outlined in the settlement agreement. We also are in the process of trying to update those, or it's a process by where the money we got is adjusted for inflation. So we get a little bit more money than what the bill said. So we're in the process of getting all that figured out as well. With respect to construction, and I know you're interested in that, it's my understanding that the tribes will hire a person to oversee construction that's authorized and permitted under the settlement, and that person will be located in the maintenance department. As soon as we get that person on board, he'll be able to work with consultants such as engineers, architects, those kinds of things, to get plans underway and those permits in place so the construction can begin as soon as possible. And correct me if I'm wrong as I go along, Madam Chair, that sometimes I hear things and I don't know if they're accurate. With respect to the bison range, the council authorized providing the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service with a 60-day notice. So we intend to take over full operation and management on January 3rd, 2022. So all those meetings we've had this past fall and all the working side by side with U.S. Fish and Wildlife have put us in a place that we're getting ready to take over everything. It's my understanding the gift shop at the Bison Range will open later this month or early next month as well. So you'll be able to visit there and purchase things that are for sale. With respect to the recreation regulations, those are currently undergoing review and will be published in the near future. There will be some pertaining to the Bison Range as well as others that are updated annually. And with respect to the land, third-party land exchange authorized by the settlement, we're trying to get the state to identify what Forest Service or other federally owned properties they're interested in, so we can appraise those state sections on the reservation and begin that process of exchanging those lands. It has to go through the regular acquisition process, so it will take a while. In other instances, we're able to use settlement funds to purchase lands if they're related to water rights settlements or they're needed for construction of some of the projects we're authorized to do. And we're taking a look at those as they're offered to the tribes. So there is no comprehensive plan of attack at this point in time, but we're working on that. And of course, any lands that we can acquire can all be used for cultural purposes and restoration as they're identified. So that's the first part of the settlement has to do with the state sections on the reservation and trading those out for to get title to those on reservation for the tribes. And then what the state will do is exchange with the Forest Service or another federal agency so that they're made whole. And I think there are 4 sections that are not covered by the settlement across the reservation, but they're all surrounded by fee land. So we should be getting all those back. Any specific questions? With respect to the water registration, that is registration of the tribal water rights by allottees, tribal members, and the tribes, we're opening the office and we'll begin that process around the new year, January 3rd or 5th or something like that, where we've located office space. We are acquiring personnel to work there. We're having to update a little bit because the office that we're going to be occupying was moved completely out, so there's no furniture or anything. So we're going to have to do a little bit of updating, but that, again, that office should open around the 1st of the year. And we will also work with housing, their well logs, to make sure we've identified all the wells that were drilled for individuals throughout the years. We'll work with our engineering firm consultants because they've identified all the tribal water uses that were on the reservation and could be claimed. And then we will have individual registration as well. So people can come into the office and get assistance in either filling out the form or making their filing.
Question. I've seen on the news where there's going to be like 99 houses put up across from the Powwow Road and on the end of Powwow Road. And I'm wondering, how does that affect us in the water compact?
I know that that subdivision is proposed. I don't know that it's been approved or will go through. But basically what we'll do is have a senior right to water. So if they drill a well, we might have to go through some steps to protect that groundwater, but our right will be older and therefore filled first.
Because that's a lot of water they'll be taken if they go through.
Madam Chair, you and the executive staff have been following that subdivision a little bit more closely than we have in legal. Do you have any additional comments?
So when the developer, Mike Bauer, came in to make us aware of the situation, I believe what he said was they were planning on drilling 50 wells, that two units would share one well. And he said he had a letter from the NRC and had spoken with Flooded Irrigation Project about the available water. And Seth set him straight and told him, you know, what the water, I guess, like you said, the senior water rights were, and also that what our process is, and then also the Lake County. So it's proposed, but as Rhonda said, it's not approved yet. So that's kind of where it stands. There really hasn't been any council action. We've had some discussion about that particular property. But we haven't taken any formal action yet.
Okay.
But yes, it's very concerning that this would happen in our, especially in Arlee, where, you know, we all know what the water situation is there.
Yeah, okay,
Right,
yeah.
Madam Chair, is there any kind of monitoring going on at any time about the water table there in Arlee area?
We have well measurements and we've kept an eye on how it's interrelated to the surface water. In that area in particular, the surface water and groundwater are very intermingled. Streams go along the top of the ground, disappear for a while, come back up later. So we're trying to make sure we understand how that interaction works and so that we can protect it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from any other elders, staff?
We're talking about 90 houses, right? And do they have to go to the council before they okay it, or what is it, you know?
Well, it's proposed, it's not for sure. It's on fee land, so they don't have to go through the council first. But they do have to go through several processes to apply for water rights, and the Water Management Board will have a role in deciding whether they can take additional water, because the water table there is pretty iffy and moves around a lot. So they have several processes to go through before it's approved.
Is
But
that
no,
enough? Go ahead.
but it is fee land, so they go to the county first.
Is there enough land there to put 90 houses? They have to squeeze it there. How many acres is there that they're going to put the houses on?
Madam Chair, could you answer that? I'm not familiar with that particular subdivision proposal.
I believe it was 77 acres. And the proposal was, I believe, for 99 units. And then there was a couple little park spaces. So, but yeah, it was right on Powell Road.
That's kind of going to be squeezing the houses in there, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think it was half acre half-acre lots.
So it'll look like Flynn Lane in Missoula with all those houses packed in the. But when back road you take to Walmart, all those houses all bunched up. There's a whole bunch of them in that one little road. And that just about makes me, I don't know, makes me not feel good thinking about that.
And what company is this that's putting all those houses up?
The individual's name is Mike Bauer. And how I was first made aware, he called me and left me a message and wanted input on what they should name the roads in that subdivision. And I said, whoa, I think you need to come to council and discuss the whole project. So he did.
I thought we were trying to keep the white people out of this reservation.
Too late for that.
Oh,
I told him that I just came from Bozeman a couple weeks ago and I saw a lot of for sale signs over in the Three Forks, Livingston area. But he didn't bite on that one.
Bozeman's going to be the biggest city in a short period of time here. And I think that's probably one of the more worrisome things that are happening around here is the fact that even though we control a lot of the land, there's still key spots that are not being controlled. And that leads to developments like this and outsiders coming in and building. A lot of times people that don't even live here will purchase land, fee land, and build on it, but they're not going to stay here anyway. And then people move in here that have totally different values, totally different views of what community should look like or what the reservation should look like. And that with that comes all the problems and the disagreements that we always face on a daily basis. You know, the people just, wherever they move from, they come in and bring what they had there and expect it to be the same here, even though they move here because of what they see here. You know, the tribes have done a tremendous job of preserving, you know, as much as we can and making it look the way it does now. Our forests, our lands, our waters. And a lot of times that's what brings outsiders here because of that. But then when they get here, they want to change everything. You know, now you notice a lot of these ranchers are out there are starting to develop a lot of little puddles out there. There's a lot of little ponds and different things that we were never there before, all of a sudden are starting to appear. So it's, you know, as a tribe, you know, we really got our backs against the wall, and we're going to have to start finding ways to battle back and reclaim our sovereignty here. And that's the scary part, is always the outsiders that have no clue or their version or their vision of Native people or John Wayne movies, and they figure they can come in here and just change a lot of things any way they want. So it's always a concern.
It is, and one of the arguments, or one of the, I guess, issues that he brought up was providing affordable housing for, locals. And I believe it was Ellie that asked him, well, how can you guarantee that it will be for locals? How do we know that 99 families from California might not be moving in here? And, he said he really couldn't guarantee that, but, it was his hope to keep it affordable housing, so.
Wow.
Just something?
Money talks, somebody give them offered a little more and they're gonna go for it. They're not gonna keep it down. It's something we all know that money speaks loud. Those values are high, a priority of theirs. Even our own tribal membership, sometimes we lose focus on those values and kind of get caught up in all of that. And, it's something that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Just like this little development out here on Mission Dam Road here, Mission here. It sat empty for many, many years. For 2 years, or 2 houses were out there. Then all of a sudden, it's almost all filled up. And from what I understand, most of those are Amish is moving in there. And it's too bad Noel ain't alive yet. He would have been tickled to know that Amish was moving right in next door to him.
Those guys are rich.
Yeah, very. They drive around town here and those big earth movers or whatever they call them. They don't go, or either come in tractors or those $150,000 machines, and nice cars. And they're
I
nice.
know, and they can have anything they want as far as technology and stuff, long as it's for their work. Whatever work they're doing, carpentry, baking, or whatever. They're so rich. I mean, they're all over the United States. I've seen some places in Pennsylvania. Holy cow. They got heated, their floors in their barns are heated for their cows. Jeez. I wish it'd go somewhere else.
Well, we know where to go if we get cold. We can go to one of their barns.
Yeah. They're so rich.
The way to do that is, I've thought about it a lot of times. The tribe, I don't know how much money you got. And when there's land for sale, you guys should buy it, And that would block out the people that's coming in, I think, You look around and you say, right across for Moodman Pass Trail, where my mom and grandfolks used to live. I hear that's a big lot there, a lot of land there they're selling, The tribe, the council or whoever would jump on it and buy it, if we got enough money, So, then if you don't, then these Californians are going to move in and buy that place because they got no homes up in California. They're burnt up, so. And that way you could think about it and say, hey, we're going to buy this place, And we could always use it, It's just the thing is, it's just me, just thinking about the tribe should buy it, Just like up here where I live, there's houses all over the place, So anyway, that's my feelings.
Yeah, it's a struggle because, the more people move in, the more they develop, the more cultural areas we lose. where the bitterroot, the camas and the food and medicinal plant areas are disappearing because of development and altering different things in those areas. Camas especially is because, well, it's a combination of the change in the climate and drying up some of these places where the camas used to grow, development, there's just hardly any places to go anymore to dig camas. And even though a lot of the tribal members don't depend on traditional foods, we still depend on traditional foods to keep our ways, our values as tribes alive and well. It's a need that's part of our way of life. It's like you live and something is taken from you. You lose that much. It's less of you to say that this is the reason why a certain thing is. It's just like when we lose our traditional elders that have the knowledge of many things, stories and information. We lose one. They're irreplaceable. That's the same way with our plants, our medicinal, our food plants, or all of that food. That's something that's part of our way of life. It disappears. For instance, elders, I look around to the elders today, we're getting down there in numbers, and those ones that got us to this place have disappeared. There was times that we were very, very rich in having that many elders, traditional elders that teach us and holder of our values and our ways and things that kept us together. That's the only thing that keeps us together. Doesn't matter how we were brought up, doesn't matter what we know. It's those main things that's what keeps us together as a people. And when they start disappearing, we don't see that anymore. So does those ties that keep us together starts to disappear. And that's very frightening now. And it's happened quite a bit in the last few years. And I just start to wonder what we can do to slow it down anyway, that loss, to make sure that every day that we're reminded of something that ties us together as a people. That is the only way we're going to survive as Salish, Kadispe, and Kasanka people. That's the way it was in the past for thousands of years, and that's the way it's going to happen. It's going to have to happen in the future. Is to keep those ties there, whether it's a camas plant or a bitterroot or a story or whatever. They're all part of who we are as people. And we're all proud of those things that were given to us. And so when I see the land being developed that we have no control over, and that because that affects, even if we own land next to it, it's going to affect that. It's going to affect that development's going to affect that land, our land. We have no control and we can't stop it, and that's scary. Lucky do we have now that we can find ways to reestablish or to bring back some of those plants in those areas that need it. We have to shift now to look for places that can grow camas, because the camas needs a lot of moisture. And so we have to find those places because all of those developed areas dried up to those areas that were part of our camas areas. So in purchasing land, I would, I would look at it in a way that makes sure that it's beneficial in prioritized ways that's going to benefit right away. Eventually, I know if our leaders continue to go in the direction that they are, eventually down the road, we'll have this reservation back. It takes a lot of fight, takes a lot of energy, and there's a lot of obstacles. But I think with the leadership and the things that we're going in that direction, eventually we'll get back. We always hear our elders say, "Tapkes chimpanami," and that means don't give up. So everything that we do, tapkes chimpanami, don't give up. Sometimes some things look very hard that it looks impossible. But if everything was impossible, we wouldn't be here today. Our people, our leaders found ways to conquer and to get around those things so that we can survive and still be here today. And we've had some great leaders. And knowing what the future was already going to be, that they were already planning. They knew the influx of outsiders were going to come. They said they knew they were coming. They seen that long before we did, that they were coming. And so they started planning, started doing things, and how we could preserve, how they can preserve and protect for us here today, for the generations come. And it's always amazing how those leaders thought about these things, how they sat around and discussed and found ways to get around, knew that they were being targeted in certain different ways, but they found ways to get around it and preserve it. And so, and you look at the values of the non-tribal members. What is their biggest value? What do they value the most? And basically that's what we have, our resources, because they can see, they look at a tree, and we look at a tree differently than they do. They look at a tree and look at it as board feet. That's how much a board foot is in there. So they're looking at it, how much they can make it. But we look at it, we look at the tree differently and what that tree does for us to protect our watersheds, to protect our plants, to protect our animals, to protect us as people. I think that's the bottom line, is that we need to find those ways. We need to continue to doing what we're doing. And somewhere down the road, we'll get it. As long as we don't give up.
Thank you, Tony. Council has had a lot of discussion, most recently, I think in the last 2 weeks, about how what our priorities are for land purchase, for land management, for all the things you just spoke about. And another really important part that I believe Charmel brought up, and she might want to expand on that a little more, is just the whole regulatory aspect of it. You know, it seems like, well, like what Rhonda just said, this is fee land, so they have to go through the county, and you know, it just kind of leaves the tribe out in the cold because of it's not trust property. So any way we can strengthen our, I guess our stature, our legal stature within the reservation boundaries, no matter the ownership of the land. I think this Biden-Harris administration is the place to do that. And in the last couple days in the White House Tribal Nations Summit, they made several announcements about tribal treaty rights, memorandum of understanding, tribal homelands and co-stewardship, joint secretarial order. They even talked about incorporating traditional ecological knowledge into federal government decision-making. So I think we have a lot of opportunity right now. We just have to take advantage of that opportunity and come up with really aggressive or assertive solutions right now. And I think this is the time to do it. So did you want to add anything, Charmel, about the regulatory aspect of it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Atwen in Pohot. I appreciate that we can listen to what you have to say. And, you know, I'm not sure what I can add about the regulatory part, but I know that, you know, we hear you and all of our elders when, you know, we're told not only not to give up, but don't give up our rights and our ability to govern our territory is always something that, you know, our leaders for generations now have been, you know, we need to exercise more and more. So yeah, I did hear that a lot, and I think that, you know, we're trying to do more day by day, I think, to exercise our own authorities. There was a comment by one of the chiefs or leaders in the Tribal Nations Summit, and they were saying, you know, why, for example, when we're skilled as environmental managers and we have the expertise and the technical ability to do that on our own lands, on our own reservations, why then do we have to wait for the state and the federal environmentalists to come and review that work and approve it as well? And so, you know, I just think that we need to keep working toward that. But there was something that you said, Atwen, that made me think about what we were talking about here in council about a week or so ago, trying to think about, you know, our land priorities and I really hope that we can get more guidance from you about, you know, kind of clarifying and formalizing our vision as a people about how we should establish the uses of our land, for the beneficial use of all of our people. And I guess that conversation came up in the context of, you know, what is our land purchasing priorities? What should those land purchasing priorities look like? And you've made reference to some of those priorities as far as, you know, preserving areas where we can gather food and medicinal sources. And definitely we need to provide homes and housing you know, all sorts of uses. But as we continue, like, we have to imagine 50 years from now or longer, you know, what will the beneficial use of our land be for the people? And so a lot of other things, you know, come into that scenario, and certainly enrollment is one of those issues. You know, if we have a lot of land that is established for, you know, home site lease use for tribal members, then, you know, how do some of the families that we have today, how are they served their tupiats, your tupiats today? You know, how do they serve their tupiats? So, you know, that's a big question, but it's something that I look forward to hearing more about from our elders, because, you know, we need to have that really, you know, long vision. And that's the treasure that you bring to us. So I ask that, you know, just help us that much.
I think that, you know, you plan, that it's hard to plan ahead that far anytime because of the rapid change in the world that we live in, the changes that are happening around us. And our elders and our ancestors have always had the ability to adjust, ability to change and make decisions on anything that's beneficial to all the people. And sometimes those adjustments and those decisions are never satisfactory for everyone. But it's the bottom line is, what do we need as a people in the future to survive? We need certain places. We need certain land areas. We need water. We need forest. We need this. We need places to build, for people to live. We need people to grow and raise families. All of this is part of who we are. All of this is part of that future thinking of in the next generation. You know, even though that it's going to change even more by the time they get old enough, we still have to make those plans and the possibilities, and always be ready to make those adjustments as we go along. The ancestors, the elders made those adjustments when the Europeans arrived. They made those adjustments when they were forced on reservations. They made those adjustments when they were forced in boarding schools. They made those adjustments when they tried to steal and take our language and cultures away. They made those adjustments, and they made good adjustments and strong adjustments that we still maintain and still have those today. And I think that that's what we need to look at in ways of the future. You know, it's like I said, it's hard because it changes from day to day, just like the weather. The weatherman will say it's going to be sunny tomorrow, and that tomorrow comes, it's going to be snow. And that's how predictable our world is today. Is because it's not predictable. But we need to have something in place so that our people are not lost when these changes happen, that they don't panic. They don't say, well, what's happening? What are we going to do? We'll, as leaders, will have those in place. If this happens, then we'll just do this. We find ways to do that. We're going to survive as people. But the bottom line is, we got to do it together. We got to be together as people. We can't divide ourselves. and say, this is what we'll do this. And then, we gotta be together to push together. You know, somebody trying to break into your house, you push by yourself, you're not gonna do it very well job. But if everybody gets behind you and pushes on the door, you're gonna shut them out. And that's the same way with what's happening out here. We just need to, bottom line is that I always want our people to be together. You know, like I see when I was growing up, I seen that. I seen the people that visited and went to people in homes and talked to each other and shared life with each other. You know, that was probably the best times of my life to see that, to feel comfortable and to feel safe, knowing that these people, my people, were there all as one. You know, you go somewhere, they were together. They all had the same vision, the same ideas and the same things that they wanted. And that was for a better life for the next generation. So I think to do that, to make those plans so that we have something to follow, so that we don't, you know, the enemy always like to surprise attack. They'll get you. They think you don't know you get you. But if you have something in place, all you do is fall back on that place. And then you can get around it. And that's what our elders have always done in the past.
So, speaking of Camas, there's a really sweet piece of property just off of the reservation in Evero, just off of the reservation on the south side. And I'm not sure, it's probably 40 acres, maybe 80 acres, but it's a camas field. And I don't know if you guys have seen it in the spring, but it's yeah, it's just a really sweet piece of property and there's no cows on there. And so the camas comes back every year. And I've been watching a lot of tribes recently buy properties off the reservation, you know, fee properties for those purposes because they, you know, they have some cultural significance. So I'm wondering if those are the kind of where, I guess, where that sits in our priority of purchasing lands, you know, whether, because I've heard people say, well, let's worry about, you know, getting our land within the reservation back. But I just wonder what people's thoughts are about, you know, special pieces like that that have, you know, huge value on them because of what they sustain.
Well, you look at, think about it, we have over 22 million acres we got to buy back. We got to buy our Aboriginal territory back. So we're heading in the right direction. I mean, you know, there's sometimes you can't purchase a piece of property that you want here on the reservation. And if you wait for it, there's no guarantee that you're going to get it later. So I think some properties like this, you know, you could purchase it and you know, who knows, it might come in helpful at a different time, at a different day. You know, you might be able to do something other than just to plant something.
Martin?
Thank you, and thank you, Tony, and all the elders. Always good to hear from you. Tony, I was just kind of wondering, we haven't talked a lot about this as far as kind of your thoughts as far as down the road, what, this water settlement could do to help improve, the culture committee's mission. I know that's one of the big parts that we, are hoping to get to sooner than later, rather than having to wait 10 years. But, I think that's always important to hear from the people that are doing the work, the boots on the ground, so to speak, on what kind of support or things that, could really improve. I know space is an issue with, the language groups and things like that, especially in, COVID, but, if there are other things that we can do to speed this process up, well, I think we're going to try that. So, it'd be good to hear these things now and kind of get them in our thought process going forward to really help, both our committees to, continue and, improve. I mean, funding has always been an issue with cultural, continue our culture. And that's always been a weird one with me because, I think that cultural is more valuable than money, and, putting a price on culture is very dangerous. So just kind of your thoughts, if you could. Thank you.
I have something to comment about just what you're talking about, Martin. For years back, people have been talking about the painted rocks at Perma. How can we preserve them? How can we protect them? Because people have been going there and chipping pieces of rock from those paintings. And we believe that to be a sacred place, a place for prayers. When the people would come up the river and the chief might stop there and pray for his family and for the group of people he's with, for safety and protection, and for protection for those he left behind. So, and when he's going back down the river, then he might do the same thing, giving thanks and other prayers too that he leaves there. So I know to this day, people still go there to pray. And I don't know if they leave any offerings, but a lot of the offerings that have been left there in the earlier years have all been taken by people. So, and a few years back, somebody brought a picture, showed us a picture of somebody's name scratched in on those pictures. So we tried to figure out ways to put some sort of covering over those pictures or writings, or to protect that whole area there. Because people, even though some boulders have been put there and some signs have been put there saying no camping, people still have been doing it. So we would like to know, or I would like to know, would some of the water compact money be able to do a project there to protect that sacred area?
Yeah, thank you, Shirley. I think that, that site is important enough that we should just get our resources together as, if it's lands, if it's fire, whoever, and do that. After the last, the last meeting, the last elders meeting that I attended, you know, I brought that up, I think, at the next meeting, you know, if we could even, you know, I think Tony mentioned just putting chain link, you know, over the face of it, to kind of protect it, so people couldn't get up to it. You know, and I don't think that waiting for, I mean, I'm sure it would be an allowable cost for the water compact, but again, it's that, you know, waiting for, you know, the 10 years or whatever. Now, like I said, it's not a huge undertaking in my mind to do something and get that area protected because, you know, as you guys well know, the tourists have been increasing the last few years, and you know, we have to do something. And so I'll keep pushing for that, Shirley. And, you know, like I said, I don't think we should have to wait for the water settlement money. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, one of the other things besides a chain link fence was good quality plexiglass to go across the face of that rock. I think there's another rock behind that too that has writings. And so another thing I want to bring up is when we go looking at the Bitterroot in our Bitterroot spots, there's always signs that there have been horses and cattle in there. So what can be done to ensure that the cattlemen and the ranchers don't allow their livestock in these places? So that our Bitterroot and our other foodstuffs are clean. So that's the question. What can be done to prevent that?
Anita?
Yeah, surely I think that we could talk to lands and identify those areas and have them excluded out of that lease, even if they had to go in and fence them. That's what I would suggest. Getting a hold of Mark.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'm not the only one concerned about that. There's other ladies too. Yeah, that think that those areas need to be kept free of livestock. Lamb lunch.
Has anybody ever been up to that medicine wheel in Wyoming? It's on top of a mountain in the clouds.
Nope.
It's a medicine wheel and it's made out of rocks. It's like, kind of looks like a wagon wheel. I guess not so much anymore because people are stealing the rocks, but it dates back like past 10,000 years. And what they have there, they have a big fence all the way around. And they have, it's run by the Forest Service. They take care of it. And they have a guy, there's only one way to get in there, and they have one guy down there always at the gate, and it's only open certain times. So when people go up there and they leave things like on the fence and stuff, but they don't allow anyone but Indians inside. And I thought that was pretty cool. I really I enjoyed that because of it was like privacy when you went to go visit that. So, and it's pretty limited on who gets in there. So I don't know if that would end up being too big of a thing for doing for the painted rocks. I don't think it is, you know, but that's just another idea. And I had another thing to talk about too, is everybody's talking about water and stuff. When we went up to Columbia Falls, I don't know, Shelley was there. And I mentioned to those people about what they could do to help us with the water quality in the lake because of the septic tanks, the aging septic systems and stuff. They're like leaking into the lake. And I was wondering about the same thing what you were saying, Shirley, about the water compact money. How, if they could use that, or if they have to wait 10 years, but you know, the water's already polluted. So what they could do, what the tribes could do about it, I know waiting for the Forest Service and the BLM and all those guys to do something. They thought it was a problem too, you know, and then they made them want to check on their own Whitefish Lake and stuff the same way, but I don't know, but that pretty much affects everybody around here, that lake being polluted. It's only going to get worse. But anyways, that's just throwing that in there.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Rhonda.
there are provisions in the settlement to upgrade local sewer and water systems on the reservation. So certainly those things will help maintain water quality into the future. But there's so many people moving in, we're going to have to keep on top of it and get more active, I guess, in planning communities or preventing communities from occurring. We are also very concerned about the lake. It atrophies, it gets old, and its chemistry changes. So we're trying to keep a close eye on that and keep it as young as possible. But things naturally change over time. And so we don't have the answers to everything, and certainly would like everybody's ideas and help going forward. With respect to the 10-year period, I'm not sure where that comes from, but for implementing the compact, the things we do for the culture program, the language, the permitting, buildings, those kinds of things can take place as quickly as we can get to them. So there won't be a 10-year waiting period, but we can't get to everything at once. We can't even get people hired to do the construction on the irrigation project. So we're going as quickly as we can, but we ask for your patience. We have great plans. We have a good source of funding, and we're in a very, very good position to improve things going forward.
Good. Since the lake was mentioned, I want to mention the river. I know there has been something put in place this past year, protection for the Flathead River. And so much people have gone on there floating in the summertime and rafting when the water's high. And there's concern that they would throw their trash in the river when they're doing those activities. And also having people maybe hired to patrol the river every day at night, because of some people not from here using their firearms for practice and shooting across the river. I don't know why they want to shoot across the river, but that's a concern because it's dangerous for people on boats or canoes. And it's also a concern that those bullets might reach across the river. Somebody fishing might be shot and hurt. So maybe something can be done about that too.
Thank you, Shirley. That was one of the things that Dan McClure brought up when he was talking about increasing his game warden staff, was having a full-time 1 or 2 people to patrol the river on a regular basis versus the 2 times that it happens in the summer currently. Dan, did you want to address that?
Okay. Sounds good.
So are we going to like be having people at the different entrances to the recreation areas this summer?
Council had this discussion last week, but I do not believe they took action on it. I thought that was something that was gonna be on our agenda this week, today, but it's not. Dan, do you want to talk about that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, answering Shirley's question about the river patrols. Yeah, currently I'm making proposals for both elder committees review, and that would be a couple proposals in staffing. One of the proposals is an additional warden staff, 2 warden patrols on the lake and river daily, and still maintaining all the other job duties that we do. So I'm currently putting that together. I met with Kootenai elders last week and advised them as well that I'll be putting those proposals together so that both committees could review those, so I could hear your advice on those, or which ones you would choose to do over the other, or whatever discussion we come up with on that. But that was one of the proposals, having lake and river wardens every day. As far as the manning the entrances of recreational areas, I identified 40 entrances when we had the COVID closures, the road closures, and we did that program during the closure that took 28 people to manage, and we didn't even get all 40 covered. So we had to scale that back down to the most popular areas. So in these proposals that I'm writing up is additional warden staff, seasonal employees that are mobile to go to different areas throughout mainly the summer months to hold the entrance and check people to make sure they have their licenses and permits to be in those areas. So as I said, I am currently working on those, and as soon as I have those completed, I'll be delivering those to each of the culture committees personally for your review.
Oh, thank you.
Mark, did you want to address the Bitterroot areas that Shirley had talked about?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. I have reached out to Tony and Cheney on a couple different items that we were looking at and trying to do some restoration projects with Bitterroot over in the Camas area, where I do know there's some digs. We've been working on this for a little while. We did get some grant money from USDA right now to be looking at doing a restoration project for this reason. Cheney Bell did reach out to me earlier this year. We've been trying to set up a meeting on this so we know where you guys will be looking at for the upcoming year for any kind of digs, that we would be talking with our lessees, getting that cordoned off so they're not putting their cattle in until after a dig site. That you guys will be able to get in there without having them getting in there pre-dig when they're growing to try to get to that area. We're also trying to limit any of our agricultural SCs to in those areas where we have those sensitive areas like that for those digs, that we do not want a chemical spray at any time in there at all. That's why we're looking at these restoration sites. We've identified some just from field activities where we have identified Bitterroot dig sites that, potential sites where we do have Bitterroot that we don't know if that's where you guys do the digs or not. We don't want to have it posted out there that this is what's going on. We want to keep it still just for the preservation and culture committees and the lands department to have, because we don't want people going out to prematurely digging or anything like that. We want it to be set for our people to be able to secure that food source for, years to come, and to do it in the best and safest way for our people and for the environment.
Oh, thank you.
Tony, I would like to actually come down to the next elders meeting too, on your guys' and the culture committee meeting on the 1st.
Yeah.
If you could schedule me in, because I wanted to do some talk about the, like Rhonda and that was saying about how we go about when land acquisitions come here and what we purchase. I'll try to get some acres and everything more down of what we've purchased in about the last 10 years with the buyback that came up, and then how we've been still doing business and future looks of what we've been working on how to tie in the culture committees and our elders on acquisitions to what we're addressing for best use for the tribes. So you guys can see these areas.
Okay, we're still zooming, so we'll.
That's fine.
We'll send you a link as soon as we get everything squared away. That'd be great.
All right, I look forward to it.
Okay, Martin and then Carol.
Thank you. I was just hoping Mark could maybe fill us in on any discussions that have been had about the painted rocks down in Perma and how we could protect them, or if there's been any discussions. Thank you.
For the land department, there has been a lot of discussions on that area in the past years. There, in the early 2000s, there was an individual that was down there getting flat rock on the private property, and he had actually went over into the tribal piece and was getting some of the flat rock. And that's when it really became apparent that there was something needed to be done. It's very hard, like Dan was saying there, about just even limiting people's access down there. You could stop the road use going in or anything like that. Signage, putting some kind of protective barrier up, any of that. But you still have that river corridor access where people could come in on boats. So it's a real tricky area of trying to preserve it. We don't want it noticeable really to, bring people more attention to the area. But there's been talk about it. I've heard the rumors and stuff where people, non-tribal, off reservation have came through and knew they were there. And what they wanted to do was preserve it by trying to go up and chip some of it off. It's a very tricky scenario of how to try to do it. That's going to take a lot more discussion and brainstorming on best and safest way to preserve it and still have the tribal members be able to utilize it. It's going to be it's going to take a big group effort of trying to do it. It's going to be real tricky.
I wonder about, some of these areas, I don't know what it takes to maintain that South Fork cabin, but, we've talked about other places like Lozo or, different areas that, we could do that type of an arrangement. And I don't know why we couldn't do something like that at Painted Rocks to keep it safe all the time.
Carol. I think it's just a matter of us taking action to have the land office buy the material and get it protected the best they can. And then work from there on any future protections that need to take place. I mean, it sounds simple, but I'm sure it's a lot of work in figuring out how you're gonna cover that. But I think it can be done, and it can be done immediately. So I think, and the other question I have, Tony, about NAGPRA, you know, I don't, in the discussion with the Kootenai elders, I hear some discussion about NAGPRA. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, or is that more basically with Preservation Office and just utilize it through them? Or do you see a real need to get going and with the Salish Culture Committee?
Well, NAGPRA right now, I think is supposed to be, was with up there with the Preservation Office. And, you know, because the state only allowed one, they only recognized one for each reservation. We only had one here when we should have two. But we wouldn't, a lot of times we, you know, in the past when, this is going back way back when Pat Left Hand was still here, and we shared a lot of those different things. He took care of the northern part, and I took care of the southern part, and then after years of that, we, you know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of work and research, and so that's when came up with the idea of a preservation office, which would be centrally local in Pablo, between that way, and then all the requests would go to the preservation office, and then the preservation office would then determine what direction it went, whether it was more of interest of the Kootenai people or the Salish people. And we had that, you know, we'd never had an appointed preservation person. We just kind of took it on. It was later in years that the state appointed these preservation officers, and the last one that we had was for the reservation was who was it? I can't. I know Francis was one. Francis Ald was for a while. I think Rosemary was the last one, I think. And then she doesn't work for culture or for the Kootenai Culture Committee anymore. She works for the college. There's no real one set. So we've been kind of taking it on ourselves between Katie McDonald and I think Francis up there, kind of working things out that way. It's only that on the important things and issues, meetings and those kind of things, you know, that the state only recognizes one. But we've always advocated for two, one for down here and one for up there. And that's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot, that's an important position for the tribes to take care of those issues, especially with the state and federal people.
Okay, the other question, Tony, I have is in your picture behind your, I don't know, left side or right side. It looks like Johnny Eneas. Is that who that is?
Yep, that's Johnny.
Okay, yeah.
We were up there at, I think it was at Clear Creek campground. It's when the Salish and the Kootenai people were on a field trip. I think we were way up there right after that fire up there. After the fire, I think the year after, we had a field trip with forestry up there, and we had a good meal out there, a good visit. There was a lot of us out there. Miss those days.
Carmela, something?
First of all, I want to add that Chief Cliff is an area of concern as well, that, you know, we need to figure out how to address the access and protection. But the discussion about NAGPRA, and of course, I don't know, I've heard people ask, what is NAGPRA? And of course, not everybody uses the acronyms, but Native American Graves Repatriation Act. It was something that came up in a listening session that I logged on to yesterday, the Truth and Healing Advisory Committee, which is Secretary Deb Holland's boarding school initiative. And I wanted to mention that to the elders, that there's another listening session next Tuesday. Is that next Tuesday? Yeah, November 23rd. And what they're, and Secretary Holland is on the listening session, and her staff, and they're taking comments from tribal leaders of all tribes in the United States. And so there was a lot of really good discussion that I heard yesterday, and they're looking for guidance and recommendations. In part, they're wanting to know, you know, what you advise as far as how they structure the collection and protection of some of the information that they're going to gather as they work on the, you know, I guess just formalizing the knowledge about the effects of boarding school, and some of that they talked about the way that it should be addressed, whether, you know, how they utilize the NAGPRA law, et cetera. So it made me think to bring that up to you guys. They also kind of want to know, you know, what should the overall recommendation be from tribes to the United States government with regard to this initiative. Some of the stuff that I heard mentioned yesterday was that, you know, all Indian policies should be examined in this way, and the impacts that have resulted in Indian policy. This is, of course, one example of Indian policy that's devastated our people. And the other thing that they talked about was, you know, this is we live with the historical trauma of what our ancestors lived with. And so, you know, we have a present day generation that is living through the effects of that trauma, but we also have to keep in mind that we have generations that'll come behind us that also need to be considered, and how they will also be impacted. So we need to think about how to provide solutions and help for that as well. But one of the big things that I really heard come out of it too, I mean, something that really struck me was the fact that the languages, the original languages of our indigenous people they were radically and forcefully attacked by this policy, and therefore should be a focal point in restorative funding. And so I really encourage, if you have the time, to get on to this listening session and give some of your thoughts about that it would be really valuable. They're also taking written comment, and I hope that we as a tribe will send a formal written comment in before the end of their period, which I think is the latter part of December. December 26th, I think, is what comes to mind. But I'd like to have the tribe have a formal input, but I think each of you could give formal input as well. And, you know, the possibility, I think, is to ask for direct funding, you know, something that we don't have to compete with other tribes for. and that we can utilize in a way that's more meaningful to the way that our people have, suffered losses and what's meaningful to us. And of course, our language programs are very meaningful to us. But, as well as what you're referring to, the need for additional NAGPRA officials here and how we handle those differently as distinct Salish, Kalispec, Sanka people. So I just wanted to mention that we have a link here if you need that link, Twin, and if you want to share it with the rest of the elders to participate in the listening session. Lemon.
Okay, I will let them.
You know, a few years ago, well, a long time ago, I guess, I was looking at the maps and it showed on the map how much land we had, the tribal lands. That wasn't very much, you know. Then the tribe stepped in, then it started getting green, you know. We start buying back all that land. And I was just thinking about it, you know, with these 99 houses that's going to go up, 90, I guess. It's going to start destroying that again, you know. Not the land, but people are starting to move in, you know. Look how much we accomplished there with all that land, you know. Getting it back, getting people happy that lived here, you know, with the elders, with everybody, you know. Now we're letting this houses coming in here. Not just those houses, but there's a lot of houses just like you guys are saying, you know. You know that. So today, that's what I wanted to say, you know. And at Usum this morning, I was talking to the little children about our language. And I said, you guys are the future of this, you know. A lot of them, you're going to be councilmen or whatever, you know. And that's what we're working for, you know. And you guys grown up, we saved these lands. That's who you're going to be, you know. And one little kid got up, about 4 or 5 years old, and she counted to 10 in Indian. She said, Stephen, go, I said, move, Stephen. You know, that really just made me happy, you know. I didn't ask her to. She just come up and told me. I could count to 10, you know. But this is for the little children. We always talk about that. The future, you know, coming up. So we got to do something about this, you know. About our land, about our reservation, about the water, about everything. That's all I wanted to say, but mm-hmm.
Okay, can we switch over and talk a little bit about the bison range? Or get a little bit of update on that. We've been involved a lot on that, but I don't know. I still don't know what's going on out there. So if somebody from Bison Range could give us an update.
I don't see Tom McDonald on here.
Okay, well, if
Dan?
anybody that knows anything, then that'd be great.
Madam Chair, Whisper was going to address that update. I just texted her. She had to get into another meeting, but she was going to come back if she had opportunity to talk about the Bison Range. So I just sent that text to her, and that's all I have.
Can you talk a little bit about your guys' plans for Fish and Game presence there?
Sure. So we are currently in the process of gathering our tools and whatnots, and where our plan is to move the Fish and Game office down and work out of the Bison Range area so that we are on the ground there every day. More so, I'll be there every day so that the wardens that I have can be out patrol in other areas. But we are in the process of making those changes, and hopefully we'll be down there by the middle of December. We just figured that it's a closer opportunity to get to the river. Most of the complaints come down through that Dixon area, Foul Slough and up through Salone. So we'll have access to get there quicker from that location. And plus we have a lot of bear calls down south. So I think it'll be a good fit for us.
Thanks, Dad. I can just picture you standing on that highest point with your telescope and just doing a visual all the way around of every activity that's going on.
Right.
On the highest point there, on the south side, there's a eagle catching pit on that side. And it was still intact last time I seen it, pretty much.
Is it on one of those trails, Tony?
That's no, well, it's, you know, where the old lookout was,
Oh, yeah.
where the old lookout was, and it's straight, kind of straight down on the other side, on the south side.
Oh,
So it looks like Whisper's back. Whisper, the elders are asking for a update on the Bison Range. So Dad just talked about establishing a Fish and Game presence there. Do you want to address anything else? Everything else?
I have a little list of things. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, so I'm a little raspy. But yeah, the Fish and Game office is planning to move down there at the beginning of the year. And Rhonda covered a couple of things on my list. One, talking about the 60-day notice that went out to the Fish and Wildlife Service for us to be able to assume management at the Bison Range in the beginning of January 2022. I talked to Leonard today, and he said to make sure that people were aware that our electric vehicle charging stations will be installed and functioning as of today, and that the electrician advised that the cost of a full charge for those cars is $9, and that will run for 250 hours. So I think we bought two, I'm going to forget the names. They're Ford electric cars. So the staff drive those around. They're quiet. They're just an electric car. And we have some orders for some other trucks and vehicles so that we're trying to cut down on fossil fuel use out there and cutting down on some of the sound and the noise pollution. So those will be there. And I think as a revenue generating stream, that's something that we're always thinking about out there and talking about. So we're welcome. We would welcome any suggestions that you all have. But one of those things would be to put electric car charging stations in the visitor parking lot so that if we need to use them, we can use them, but that we can also sell charges to people who come and are actually using electric cars. So that's something we've got going on. We're still staffing up out there. Wildlife just hired on a wildlife biologist, one, to work with Shannon Claremont He's a tribal descendant, Charlie Lytle. He'll be coming in as a biologist, and we're still waiting to, or we're still looking to hire our range manager, the person to help us really get the condition of the grasses in check. We're doing some elk cull, which is done every year out there. We have been, Shannon's been contacting the different programs within the tribes to be able to provide that meat to the different programs that we have in it first. And then we're looking at who to give to after that. We're not paying to process, but we're bringing elk to processors, and then the programs pay for the meat when they pick those up. The rest of our staff is doing pretty good. Everybody's pretty excited. I know that Antoine's really been working on trying to get the technology updated out there and working with our IT department. That's really one of the limiting factors to our staff, is that we don't have good computer connections out there or cell service. So being able to take money with credit cards or have people pay with those things can be cumbersome. And so they're really working on ways to make that more efficient so that we can generate more revenue. And then, as Rhonda also said, the gift shop is almost complete. I heard from Stephanie, she is saying the end of the month, trying to get that gift shop open for Christmas shoppers. And she's really working hard on using tribal vendors, so artisans, people who make crafts and things, so that she has to get them under contract and work with them to sell their stuff at the visitor center. Everything else is looking pretty good. We're just moving forward, and really thankful for everybody and how everybody's been working together to get us to where we are. And I will entertain any questions if anybody has any that I can answer.
Any questions?
How much does the batteries cost?
I'm not sure how much the cars cost. They were a Chevy Volt, I think, is actually, now that just triggered in my mind. My guess is they're comparable to a regular gas-powered car, but I'd have to look that up. And then just the cost of the electrician to come put that charging station. I think it looks like a regular, I'm not so great at electrical terms, 120 volt plug-in. I don't know. It's not like a dryer plug-in. It's like a regular plug-in. But if you have the bigger plug-in, it goes faster. So I think that there was the need to get that expense put in for faster charging. I'll look it up, Stephen.
They're not AA batteries, Stephen.
I was getting some AAA, you know.
I just looked it up. Those cars cost, it looks like between 24,000, around 24,000. We probably bought the most basic ones with the cassette player and roll down windows.
Well, Tom won't tell us how much his cost, you know. Tom Smith.
Oh.
Sure, I will. About just about what Whisper said.
So tell me about your experience, Thompson, with your electric car. I find that really interesting.
Oh, Lemon Shy. Yeah, no, it's been good, except you may have seen in the news that there's a recall on the bolts right now to replace the batteries, but we're still using it. We just charge it a little bit less to keep on the safe side. But no, it's been a great little car, Chevy Bolt, and we found it over in Spokane for super cheap, so we snapped it up just before the pandemic hit. And we also happened to, some years ago, got a used Chevy Volt, which is a hybrid, but it goes about 50 some miles on the battery before the gas kicks in. And that's really been an amazing car, actually. So no, It's definitely more and more cars are going that way, and it definitely, one of the best things about it, of course, is that it cuts down on global warming emissions, but there's really no downside to those cars that we have experienced so far.
You could buy one four-wheel drive, huh?
Yeah, I think you can actually. I think Volkswagen has some four-wheel drive ones now, and I'm not sure who else does. I think there's more and more of them coming out. And next year, supposedly, Ford is going to be coming out with its electric F-150. That'll probably be a big hit.
Probably, huh?
That's my prediction, Tony.
Martin has something.
Thank you. Tony, if we kind of, my question, we got to a lot of good topics, but maybe just refresh our memories. I know that there was a paper that, a proposal that I think I'd seen that you guys had done for, improvements. I believe there was a new building, or at least renovations to your guys' building that I know is long overdue, especially, with the Longhouse being a multi-use facility, or previously in the worrisome nature of having a kitchen right next to where artifacts are stored. So maybe just, we could talk a little bit about that for a minute. Thank you.
Yeah, we sent in a proposal on that, not for a new building, and some more staffing. And I think we were talking about NAGPRA earlier, and I think NAGPRA was part of that proposal. And to get away from, I guess, to get away from the kitchen is the most important thing. We wanted to get a new building where our language classes are kind of cramped in there right now. We got them petitioned off of a group in the kitchen or in the dining area, and we got the larger new group in the big room, and so we try to keep them separate. And so we, like I said, they're cramped in there. And the kitchen, we've experienced a couple of fires in there already. It's a stove, grease fires, and the archives, our information, a lot of that we have is right next door behind it. So it's kind of a little scary there. Even though we have all of our information, most of our information duplicated and put in different areas on the reservation, we still would lose a lot if we had a good fire in there. So that was one of the main reasons, to get us more space for our language program. The language seems to be going very good, and it's getting bigger every year. We have to turn people down. It's hard to choose just a handful of people out of 30, 40 applicants. And that's great that people are doing it, but it's still, we need the room to do a good job on teaching them. Especially the newer ones, the one that's here 2 years. Eventually, we would like to add more years to it. To me, I think going through the whole program would be the ideal way to do that. But right now, we only can keep them for 2, maybe for lucky 3 years, and then they gotta go, and we gotta replace them. And that they're just getting started. They're just getting a good grip on the language when they have to move out and make room for others. Even though we have had success with others, the earlier teacher or students getting jobs elsewhere, which is the goal. I still feel that we're sending them out just a little bit short. If they had another year, I think that would be, would have a real good grip on the language. And it just, and then if and when we get back, which is hopefully someday, get back to the full use of the longhouse here, it's going to be a hectic job trying to schedule the different events that's going to take place, especially when we start having the wakes again, when we start having students, and it's going to be our students lose time, and they're on contract, and so they lose time every time they have to move out, and we have another event that takes place here. And that was one of the main reasons that we needed a new building. So we wouldn't interfere and it wouldn't stop any of the events that takes place.
Something? Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Tony, I just wanted to mention real quickly, we talked about the White House Summit that most of the council got to sit in on. They were talking about their language immersion, and one of, I believe it was down with Cherokee, or I believe it was the Cherokee, but they were talking about, they had built their school right down around the elders. They had built the elders a housing area, and was building the schools right in the middle of it. I guess their intent was that who to learn better from. And it was kind of awesome to hear that, but that was what they were talking about with their immersion on how important the language was. And I thought that was kind of a neat idea, but I don't know if you guys had heard of that.
No, I haven't. But here, we try, we have Shirley and Stephen and whenever I have the time to go in there and do a little bit of immersion with the students that they have now. And the idea behind all that, of course, is to create teachers to teach the younger kids, the younger generations, which seems to be working, seems to be going good. And they're getting more and more interest. And that's, to me, that's the best thing I've seen in years. Thinking back to when the program first started, and the first elders I worked with, that was one of the biggest concerns was the loss of language, that everybody was not interested in the language. And then that age period, where kids were too embarrassed, I guess, to even try to speak the language. And now it's just the opposite. A lot of people are coming forward and doing that, even up at the public school here in St. Ignatius, and the grade school. There's my grandkids have always bring me back some of their work that they've learned in class there. With, I think her Adele, I think, is the one that's teaching up there, and she's doing a great job. And those kids at that age, junior high, when they're all macho and don't want to be considered Spanish or part of the tribe, they want to be macho. They're just the opposite now. They're starting to come forward. And a lot of people have put work towards where the school is at now. Starting way back when, when other teachers were there. Shirley spent a lot of time there. Kind of established some of the things that are taking place now. And the goal is to create teachers and put them in all of these places that we can.
Yeah, Tony, I was just sitting here thinking about that, and that part of it was it's never too late you know, they were talking about what the boarding schools have done, taking, you know, a generation away from the language, if not two. And one of them even talked about using that Rosetta Stone to help teach. So what their whole intent was is that it's never too late, no matter what age you are.
No, it's not. I mean, if you have the heart and determination, you know, anything's possible. You know, I'm still learning, you know. Tom Smith teaches me something new every day.
Normal. Thank you.
About baseball.
Columbo. You know, I was thinking, I hope we're gonna be reviewing the language ordinance that was created some years ago, and I'd like to have a review of it, because, you know, we need to pour in more energy and resources and support to our language programs. And I'm curious how you feel about the I guess the progression of the student learning the language, and if they are progressing well with accuracy, I guess, knowledge of the language to a degree of accuracy that satisfies the fluent speaker, your goals as fluent speakers. Is that seem to be coming well?
I think to an extent it is, and that's what Stephen and Shirley do. I mean, they're part of that. They spend part of the time in there talking to the students, and to hear the correct pronunciation of different words, of sentences, or whatever. I think is the goal of using Shirley and Stephen and me whenever I can get in there, you know, to go in there and to tell stories, and they can compare what they have learned and what they have said to each other in their listening to a fluent speaker. Pretty much sometimes tell the same story.
So yeah, I think along with that language ordinance review, we could maybe revisit the strategic plan that you guys developed a few years ago through, I think it was First Nations, when Paul, I can't think of his last name, when he came to facilitate that. And you guys came up with specific goals.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I'll have to dig it out. But yeah, that'd be great to go over and update it. Any other questions, comments?
Go ahead, Shermo.
Yeah, I got one. On the buffalo, how many do you have to have before you'll give away, you know, give the whatever, you know, to the reservations? Not to get overload on your buffalo, you know. How many do you have to have? Then I read in a minute, sometimes you guys give some to Fort Peck or Browning, or is it you have to have just so many buffalo up there on the bison range, or what?
I'll try to answer that. And Stephen, I don't know that we have an exact number right now. The way that the Fish and Wildlife Service operated the bison herd, it was a supplemental herd for other areas to start herds. So because of the fact that cattle genes were almost completely gone out of that herd, there were a little bit introduced. They have bred those out and removed those individuals. So this is a genetic herd that has been used in the past for supplementing other places. So that has been one of the the uses of that herd. This year, we donated some to continue to be part of that meta population to increasing herds around the region. We donated 5 to Rocky Boy this year to start their herd. And then we sold the surplus that were available. Those were individuals that were more genetically related, so that if those were kept in and bred over 100 years, the genetic integrity would be gone. They'd start to be inbred. So every year they take blood samples during the capture. Those individuals are identified, and those are the ones that are removed from the population. So if you're saying when we start to keep them, I guess that's part of the conversation that we're getting to and where we're going. There has always been this underlying discussion. I say always, it's only been a few months, right? But we're always considering and talking about a production herd for the tribe, which is one aspect maybe that you're referring to, where those surplus animals would be taken to another area on our reservation and raised up and raised for meat. That plan isn't completely vetted or figured out yet, but that is what we've all considered to be, you know, kind of where we're going. We have to keep bison on the range for public use. I believe that we're also obligated to continue to be part of that genetic program. But for food and for food sovereignty, there is the concept of the production herd. The surplus were sold off because we need to generate revenue from the resources at the range or from visitor services or whatever it is that we do to function and operate that facility. It didn't come with dedicated funding. It was restored to us, and we're very appreciative of that fact. But we have to come up with the funding to run it. So in that aspect, we need to figure out how to keep meat here, keep money here, all those different aspects. The individuals that are removed are generally 2 years old, so they're not a breeding age. And those sometimes, I mean, some of the people that bought them to slaughter them and eat them. But generally, you'd want that animal to get a little bit bigger before you turn that into meat for people. And so, again, if we have that production herd to finish off those animals and then bring that meat back to the tribes, I think that's maybe where we're going. We just don't have that all developed yet.
And the other thing is you have to watch for diseases. You have, whatever you call them, doctors come in and check them out and see if they got a disease or whatever, you know. I hear that, you know, on TV and stuff like that, you know.
Herd health is very important. We have eyes on the ground all the time watching for signs of disease. If they are brought in for meat processing, they have to be taken to a USDA inspected area so that we're not passing out bad meat. One of the reasons why we try to not have other stock animals on the range or trailers out there, just to keep that potential for bovine diseases coming onto the range. That said, we've got cows all around us, so that's always something we keep our minds on.
Good. I'm glad we got the buffalo back, or whatever. Yeah.
So one thing I was thinking about was, you know, the sign, the highway sign that goes down for Valley Hill that has the Salish word for, I guess it's fenced in. Is that something we're thinking about changing?
Who is that question to?
You, Tony. I mean, I guess they are still fenced in, but
There was another one, say it was, we came up with it. What was that, Shirley? That
A new one?
Yeah,
Was it Sinquequayton?
yeah, I think so. Buffalo, place of the Buffalo instead of in Tlahuench.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that actually means a place where you get buffalo, Sinquequayton.
yeah. Where you get black and black and black. Pequot. Yeah, because over the years, there's different elders have come up with couple of different names for that place. They called it. And Tlahuench was one of them. I can't remember who said that one. And Sinquequayton, I think more than likely, I would think that Sinquequayton would be more linked to the buffalo. Then people would recognize that more probably than in Tlahuench.
Okay, well, we covered a lot today. Don't know if we got to everybody's questions, but I have a couple pages of notes to follow through with.
It's always good to leave some. You don't want to finish it all. You don't want to be like Tom Smith and finish everything in one day. You got to leave some for tomorrow.
Okay, Anita has something.
Tony, is on the email that I seen there, you were asking about the ownership, and Martin Zobel had supplied us with an email talking about the tribal trust and tribal fee and allotments, how many acres that we did have. So we could share that with you guys.
Okay. Okay.
Tony, if I could, just 1 second for Thompson Smith. I was just wondering how I could get a CD or DVD for the songs and prayers, hymns and prayers. I'm finding that, we're getting less and less people that want to participate in the choir. And I'm thinking if I could buy some of those things, and when I do see a person that has a book but doesn't really, really sing, maybe I could provide them with a video or a DVD so they could, learn. And I would like to sometime soon start having classes too for the songs and the hymns and the prayers. It would just seem to be lacking a lot, but I think that it could also be that there's just a lot of funerals and things like that, and it's overwhelming because of the COVID. But I would like to find out if I get one at the college, or where would I find one? Clark suggested you, so I'm asking.
Yeah, Lemnum's Carol. Yeah, I think actually Sadie handles all of our publications and materials like that. And she actually just texted me, just get in touch right with her and she'll take care of that. I think there is a recording that Johnny R. Lee made years ago of hymns and prayers. And I think we still have copies of that. Do we, Tony?
I think we do. And that one follows from the beginning, the book, all the way through the end. Every page, every song in the prayers.
Is that good, Carol? Yeah, sorry, sure.
There's always there's also a recording of the seasonal songs like Christmas songs and the Good Friday song, and I think that's it. And the Shaking Hands song. So I think we have all of those here.
And just let us know what you need. And Tom will sing it all for you.
Let's hope not.
everyone.
I got one question.
Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
Is, how come we let white people use our longhouse when somebody dies? It's always been in my mind, you know. Anybody answer that from the council?
I didn't realize we did.
I don't recall when, let me see. I don't know which one you're talking about. Me? Yeah. Well, I went to a wake about a few years ago, and they're all white people, and Stanley was still running that, you know, the wakes. And he come up and said, "Hey, there's white people in here." No? No idea.
Maybe they're related to the person that died.
Oh, I don't know. I just wanted to know, you know.
Yeah.
That could be. You know, it's, we do that if they're related to a tribal member, and if they're descendants, you know, we do that. Do that for the family. So. Damn that. That's the one that you could be talking about. Anything else? Shall I thought we had some trips to make with the elders. I guess we cancel until next year. Too cold? Yeah, it's gonna snow tomorrow. Saturday when they play the football. No, we're still scheduling stuff. We're still looking. There's a possibility we'll still go to Thompson Falls to look at that one site. We just haven't had time in between to schedule that. But they said the Kootenays bought some land to put something there. Is that right? Or am I just having a nightmare? Probably a nightmare. I don't know. Council? No?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Rumors.
I don't know. Like I said, we have a lot of land to buy back. Okay, council. Council persons. Before we leave, I just like to say that again, lemons to the council for setting these meetings up to update us, make sure that everybody's in the loop. You know, it's always good to, when you hear or when you read the council or the culture committee talk about something, at least we know what we're doing, what we're planning. You know, it makes us stronger that way. And, you know, I always say that today we go through some tough times as not only as individuals, but as a people. Every day is a tough day, but sometimes it ends up a great day, as long as we don't give up our hope and our dreams that we have for our people, for our children, our grandchildren. You know, that's the bottom line, is that what we do is for those behind us, not for us, not for those ahead of us, but for those that behind us that are coming, that are watching. That's going to be our leaders, our thinkers, our keepers of our stories, of our language, our culture, our values. You know, that's important that they learn from us here how to be leaders how to interact with, I don't want to call them enemies, but in many ways, a lot of people out there are enemies. You know, we fight every day for them. Every inch that we have is a battle. You know, we're going to Washington, D.C., going to California, going everywhere to meet with people that we know are trying to do what the elders have always said, trying to get rid of us, trying to find ways to make us less than who we are. But in the long run, if we remember that word, don't give up. We will always be here as people. You know, we come and go. Leaders come and go. People come and go. Elders come and go. But there's always somebody there to step in if we teach and even if we keep sharing what we have. Yes, our strength is in our stories that were passed down to us. Because everything that we talk about today, everything that we do today is from thousands of years ago. You know, I've always said that gave us the right to claim what we have, gave us the right to be who we are today, gave us the right to control our own destiny, gave us the right to protect and preserve what we have, our environment, our people, our water, everything that was taught to us. And every decision that we make, or every decision that I make, I think about those people first, or those stories, that information that gave, and that kind of clears it up and makes it easier to make those decisions. The power is there in their stories. And we stand here, we sit here, proud people because of that. And we'll always be. We always have that gift of pride from those stories that were information that was passed down to us. You think about all the chiefs, every person in the tribe had a role, had a responsibility. You know, the chiefs, the women, the children, old people, young people, and Kosom, we all had a role. And today we're doing that. That's why we're still here. So I encourage the council to continue to work on those, from those stories, the strength that we get from those stories, you know, who you are, who your parents or grandparents, you know, you go way back to those leaders. We are so blessed today because of that. We are so lucky to be able to sit here and to say, "Tzisedlish in Padispe, in Kasanka." You know, it's something to be proud of. We don't have the things a lot of the dominant society has, but we have what we need to win and to move forward. So I just want to encourage the council.
Lunch, Tony. It reminds me of something I heard recently. You all have heard of white privilege? Well, I was listening to this podcast and this indigenous fellow was talking about Indian privilege. And that's exactly what he was talking about, was we come with those stories and that culture and that language and that history. So that's our Indian privilege. So thanks for that reminder, Tony. Appreciate that.
Right?
Salam lunch pasia. Have a good day.
On the way.
Yes, why don't we?
Lemdums.
We had a couple other council issues from this morning. The two I had that were for open session, one was a flag request from Twiga River School. So their basketball teams are going to American Indian shootout in Billings, and they're having a parade of nations. So they were requesting a flag. So I just need consensus to provide that for them. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the Office of Tribal Relations is also wanting a tribal flag from every, so I was gonna remind you guys of that today and maybe get one over to Tom Vilsack.
So if you can give that address to Jen, maybe we
Okay.
can mail that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, okay. And then Lynn, or actually, I'll give my STED report next week to be more thorough. Lynn, did you want to talk about the meeting with Lake County on the roads?
Yes, I actually had two issues, but the one issue that I wanted to talk in executive, I think I will wait until the chairs meeting on Monday. So I can get the information, get some more information out to you all regarding that. The other issue was yesterday, Councilwoman Langford, Councilman Charlo, and myself, we attended a meeting that was facilitated by the Lieutenant Governor's office regarding transportation issues. And it was kind of a meeting between, well, as I mentioned, it was facilitated by the Lieutenant Governor's office between the tribes and the Lake County Commissioners and their staff. And it was all, it was a good dialogue. One of the few good meetings that we've had with the county commissioners. I thought it was very productive. And we've identified a lot of common problems that we're both dealing with when it comes to transportation issues in regards to budgets and projects relating to roads, making sure that we're keeping all of our roads within the reservation and the county safe for the traveling public. So one of the main solutions that was discussed was entering into a memorandum of understanding with the county. Yesterday, the county did provide us a draft copy of their memorandum of understanding that they shared with us. So we would like to get that to our road staff, and at some point in time, have them put together a memorandum of understanding from the tribe's perspective. We'll all get together and put this agreement together in collaboration, and I think it'll be a good thing for both the tribes and the Lake County taxpayers. So.
And was Ryan working on that?
Ryan also participated. I'm not sure if he got a copy of the MO. He's got a copy of that, but yes, he understands that what council wanted yesterday, was asking for yesterday. So.
Okay, Carol, did you ever think of yours?
Yeah, we still have one thing on the agenda, those letters of reference.
Just going through council stuff first. Go ahead.
Just to add on to what Len said, we did set up a meeting for December 15th at 3 p.m. Location to be determined. So yeah, just kind of echoing what Len said, I felt very productive. The people that I spoke with after the meeting, you know, it feels like it's almost a new day. And I think that the county, working with, you know, Ryan, doing field trips, those kind of things have really opened their eyes to, you know, what we're trying to do here. So look forward to continuing, you know, the cooperation with them. So thank you.
Awesome. So is that December 15th meeting on Teams calendar? Okay, Jen, can you put that on our calendar? December 15th, 3 p.m. Okay, so we have two more council issues. One is in the packet on page 2 through 7. Is she going to be here for the vote? There's been a stall tactic here and I'm getting kind of like, you know, it's a constitutional requirement. If she doesn't want to be here, that's her issue. So can we entertain Abby's issue on page 2 in the packet? Go ahead, Martin.
Page number, I don't remember the person's name that, give me a make the motion to nominate Thor Hoyt to serve as the acting judge until the vacancy is filled by tribal council, effective I'd say immediately, right?
So prior to that action, do we need to take an action to accept the resignation?
Sorry, I just got my packet back up. The first action we need is to accept Appellate Chief Justice Spiridon Walk's resignation to be effective November 6, 2021.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Lynn, second by Anita. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. Sharmel, I guess, left the meeting. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, and the second item is to appoint Justice Hoyt to fill the unexpired term or until the vacancy is filled. So go ahead, Martin.
I would like to, yeah, I'll restate the motion to have him serve as acting until it's filled. I feel like we have qualified people out there that could definitely fill that position. But thank you.
Okay, motion by Martin. Second by Anita. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Okay. And the last item for council is on page 58 through 63 in the packet.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd really like to have a primary vote, voting for 2 folks first and then have a final vote.
You guys okay with that?
Madam Chair, I didn't catch anything after Mike said the 2 votes.
Nobody said anything, that's why.
Okay, it looked like people were handing votes to him or something, so I just double checking, thanks.
So I guess the suggestion is to vote for 2, to have a primary first and then take the top 2. That's the suggestion from Mike. I think we could send them to Jennifer. So Ellie and Bing, if you guys want to send your votes into Jennifer, and the rest of us will just put our sticky notes to her, I guess. So are you guys okay with Mike's suggestions, putting in 2 first and then 1, having a primary? Okay. I will proceed.
that Charmel left and left a note, and that's it. That's not our responsibility. Seems like she would have checked with the chairwoman that I'm leaving. And so we could have asked her the question. Do you not want to participate or what? Would have been a courtesy.
I was just wondering why there were only 15 votes. Did somebody only vote for one?
So I guess since we're transparent, it looks weird that we're talking without the mics. We did a vote. The top vote getters was James Still Jr. and Mr. Shane Bird. It's a 4-4 tie. We will now vote for one of those two people. Thank you. Let's wait until. So the results were James Steele Jr. with 5 votes, Shane Bird with 3. Thank you.
So I'd entertain a motion to accept the results of the ballot. Motion by Mike, second by Anita. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. One more item, hot off the press. Ron Sweeney's asking for approval for this letter. Trying to. Oh. Okay, this is a letter to, apparently it's applying to the BIA from Forest Development requesting funding to upgrade greenhouse facilities. When Assistant Deputy Director Donna Blackhair was here, she did get a tour of the greenhouse, was very impressed. Since then, I guess we were total is 2.2 million. So I've just asked them to correct the signature line, and I think the rest of it's okay.
That motion to approve the letter.
Okay, motion by Anita to approve the letter to BIA, second by Martin. All those in favor?
Madam Chair, I'm going to abstain. My audio keeps cutting in and out. The last 20 minutes has been awful. I didn't catch half that conversation.
Okay. Okay, motion carries with Ellie abstaining.
Shelley, after we're doing this, I got one question for council.
Okay, go ahead, Len.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask council if they would consider doing a refund back to the other council candidates, because, you know, we're only looking at a month and a half of meetings left, and it was only $75, so. I don't, you know, it's an amount of money that's really not gonna impact us at all. And I just would, thinking that we just refund it back to them.
Go ahead, Mike. Carol? So if the rule does those rules same for this crew? Right, yeah.
For the person appointed, I believe it would be, but not necessarily for everybody that applied. Since it's an appointment process, and that was part of the process, and so the person that accepts the position, yeah, I do believe you're right, Carol, but I don't know that everybody else would be required.
Maybe a legal interpretation. Martin?
I would be opposed to this because it could open the door for anyone that lost the primary to ask for their money back because they lost. Essentially, that's what this was. It was an election. The other people lost. We don't refund the candidates that don't advance to the primary, or I'm sorry, to the general. So I would be opposed. Thank you.
You want to vote on this? And to people that said no.
I'd go with the no. I do agree after.
Okay, let's have a show of hands. Who wants to refund the money? Lynn, Mike, Bing. Okay. Who does not want to refund the application fee? Anita, myself, Martin, Carol, and Ellie. So 3 to 5, so no refund.
Okay, Shelley, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now motion to adjourn. Okay, we are adjourned. Good job, everyone.